Hello and welcome to the Outside the Cockpit pre-race show powered by the Intermission Sports. Today we're talking about, of course, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix that is upcoming this weekend. Qualifying is tomorrow, and of course, then the race Sunday, noon at 12:30. An interesting time to be doing Grand Prix, but I guess that's when they scheduled it. But before we continue, let's get right into it, honestly, with our Friday practice rundown. It was an interesting Friday practice, obviously, because not only we saw the first practice session with F1 cars out there, we saw some crashes as well, obviously, with Charles Leclerc crashing in FP2. But let's first start with FP1 here in the times here. I'm just going to pull them up. So as you can see, sorry. There's obviously Lewis Hamilton setting the fastest lap time, the minute 29.786. Max Verstappen short behind him, really close behind him there in practice one, just 56 tenths there off of the pace. Valtteri Bottas looking strong as well in the Mercedes. What was surprising as well was the other Red Bull of not seeing Sergio Perez up there, up in the mix. Really, he didn't have that great of a practice one session. He finished all the way down to the bottom here at P11, so really not that great for the first practice session. Obviously, again, it's a new track. You're getting used to it. You haven't done a lot of simulations. You haven't done a lot of runs on it. So it's really just finding that right setup, finding the right time. But clearly, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes have found that pace there early on. And obviously, we've seen that over the past few races. They've really picked up the pace. They've gotten the advantage over Red Bull, in my mind, just in terms of pure pace. But Max Verstappen's not far behind. He still has a good shot at this weekend. And again, practice isn't always the best piece of data to look at in terms of, finding the pace, really, because we see sometimes in practice where like Valtteri Bottas gets, P1 in practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, but then Lewis Hamilton goes goes fastest in qualifying. So it's really, I think qualifying is the true test of, obviously who is the quickest on the track. And then obviously during the practice sessions as well, when they're doing the race pace simulations. But moving on to practice 2, we saw pretty much a similar result. But it was interesting. Obviously, Max Verstappen a little bit slower of the time, but again, not far off the pace. But Pierre Gasly, over the first practice session and the second practice session, has got an immense amount of pace. And I think that's going to be something to look for this weekend for AlphaTauri fans and for Red Bull fans as well. Because hypothetically, if Perez can't really get up to that, podium position, either in qualifying or during the race, Pierre Gasly might be used like he was used in Qatar to kind of help Max Verstappen in a way, not directly help him, but, do what he can to block Lewis Hamilton or just, block Valtteri Bottas any way they can, or help him out in any, like during qualifying, if for whatever reason they need to give him a tow, whatever the case is, if, Perez fails to qualify for Q3, and they did that in Qatar as well. Obviously, there was a bit of a tow given from Pierre Gasly, and then even during the race as well, it was revealed that he let him by. He went off the track to make it non-suspicious, obviously, because they're not the same team, right? They're not two Red Bull teams. It's the sister team, so it's a little bit different. But going down, looking further down, obviously we could see AlphaTauri, doing okay. Ferrari not doing the greatest in terms of their pace. I thought McLaren was going to have a better weekend based on what I saw in practice 1. Again, it's practice 2. You're running different setups. It's not always the clearest quantitative piece of data to look at to say, okay, yeah, we're looking at practice 1, looking at practice 2. Is it really the best piece of data to look at? It's something to look at for now. And right now, McLaren's not looking great. But again, that could change in qualifying as we go into look at the qualifying towards tomorrow, which we'll probably be doing a live qualifying watch along, which you can walk along via here, right, for our YouTube channel. So stay tuned. We'll be live at 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, the time of qualifying. But yeah, that's pretty much wraps the Friday practice rundown. Let's move down to the title battle and really who has the edge, because it's something that kind of I've wanted to talk about for a little bit. Obviously, been talking about the past few weeks as we get down to the narrowest end of the season, last few races. It's really interesting to see what's happened over the past few weeks and really who has the upper hand. And I think the upper hand has to go to Mercedes, because ideally, since I'd say Brazil, they've just outshone Red Bull. It was obviously Mexico. They had a chance. They really did have a chance. I think if they had a good weekend in Mexico and they continue to, still have their great weekends in Qatar, Mexico and then Brazil and then in Qatar, that's 3 straight weekends where they possibly could have had 1-2 finishes or double podium finishes. It would have been a lot different. But because of certain circumstances, obviously Bottas in Mexico and then even Bottas in Qatar as well, struggling, it really left the door open for Red Bull, not only in the driver's championship, more in the constructors battle, to really tighten the lead, because now obviously it's only a 5-point gap between Red Bull and Mercedes in the constructors battle, and then a 8-point gap between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. As you can see, 351 to 343. And again, those half points are bothering hopefully me as much as they are as everyone else, because it's just odd to see that half a point could make such, it's just weird to look at, But then looking over to the constructors standings, obviously Mercedes just 5 points ahead of Red Bull. So again, this is what kind of makes everything crucial, because Max and Lewis kind of cancel each other out, right? They battle back and forth, and they really just, they have a close battle. It is what it is, and it's the way that it goes. So when you're looking then to the next set, your second driver with Valtteri and Perez, that's where this weekend is so key for Perez to really have, a great weekend. Because if Perez doesn't have a good weekend, but Bottas shows up and he's able to support Lewis Hamilton up there on the podium, that's going to be two Mercedes finishes, 1 and 3 or first and second or whatever the place is. But then also during the strategy phase, during the race, it closes the door for a lot of strategies that Red Bull really doesn't have, because they don't have that second car to challenge them. Again, I'm not saying Perez isn't going to qualify in the top 10, but I'm just saying, based on what I've seen from practice so far, it just seems that the Red Bull is struggling a little bit, specifically Perez. Max Verstappen has been able obviously really comfortable with his car and really comfortable the way that it drives on certain circuits, even new ones as well, and he's super comfortable. Perez I think is still just not really, I wouldn't say pushing it to the limit, but he's being cautious, I say. He's being cautious, which is a good thing, because we saw obviously with Charles Leclerc in FP2, where he had a massive crash where he just kind of rode a little bit too close to the wall, hit the curb, and then spun the back end into the barrier, and then the front end swung forward. So obviously a massive crash. It's glad that he's okay, but it just shows that every point truly does matter. And in a championship battle, that's only 5 points difference with the last two races, where if you don't have a good weekend this weekend, it's going to be tough sledding in Abu Dhabi, in terms of for Red Bull. But I'm again, it's still very close. No one really, I'd say in total, Mercedes has the upper hand, has the edge going into this weekend. They've had the momentum has swung their way. They've really looked strong for the past few weekends. They look like they've got a fast car. They've now put in the Brazil engine that Hamilton had. In Brazil. So that's clearly should be a minor, I wouldn't say a major power boost, because obviously it's gone through some strain. It's not a brand new engine. So I would say it's not as powerful as in Brazil, but it's equally as powerful in terms of just the pure upgrades that they've been doing the past few race weekends, which I think are just going to be crucial in terms of the battle for the Constructors' Championship, as well as the Drivers' Championship between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And speaking of the Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton battle, in terms of who really has the edge, Lewis Hamilton obviously has the edge. He's got the momentum. He's won the last two races with really just great performances in Qatar and in Brazil as well, just a stunning performance. So when you have the momentum on your side, it's really hard to break that. Again, it's possible, because Max Verstappen for a couple races, after winning USA, then going into Mexico, had a good races. Coming into Brazil, he was on a high. He was looking strong, looking to extend his lead. He could have possibly just put the championship away that weekend had Lewis Hamilton not made such a great charge up the grid in the sprint qualifying, and then even such a great race on Sunday. Again, the safety car, whatever it is. Again, you can look back and what if this happened? What if that happened? There's a lot of what ifs in that situation. But regardless, right now, Lewis Hamilton has the edge over Max Verstappen. It's a very close margin, only 8 points, even though Verstappen is still leading. All the momentum is in Hamilton's favor, and it's really just up to Hamilton to finish this season, really, just with two strong performances. He can win out. He's got to win out the next two races, I'd say, easily. If he wins this race, he's got to win the next one. So he's got to win out the next two races. But for Verstappen, really, ideally, he's got to win this race, and then he could finish second in Abu Dhabi and still win the championship, regardless. Because again, if he wins this race and gets the fastest lap, he gets another 7 points. So that would be a 15-point gap right now for him. And then going into Abu Dhabi, then he would have to ideally finish 15 points less than Max. Again, pretty much he would have to finish outside the points, and Lewis Hamilton would have to win the race for him to lose the championship, which again is still a highly unlikely. Again, technically this weekend he can still win the championship. He would have to get first place plus fastest lap. or win the race, ideally, and then Lewis Hamilton win to finish like 7th or lower, or 6th or lower, whatever the case is. Not saying it's going to happen because that's highly, highly unlikely, based on the fact that Lewis Hamilton is probably not going to finish outside the points, barring some crazy miraculous thing, like a crash or a safety car, whatever it is. And again, the only thing I can see happening is if both Max and Lewis crash out this weekend, battle the lead still stays the same at 8 points, and then going into Abu Dhabi, they could just finish on equal points, and they could finish on equal points if Max Verstappen, or sorry, if Lewis Hamilton were to win the race plus get fastest point, and then I think even then, because it's a 8 point, then 8 points he would collect, they would be equal on points. So I'm honestly just personally looking forward to having being tied points going into the last race of the season. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Even as a Max fan, I'm like, hey man, like it'd be great to see going down the wire the last little bit. Great to see. And with that, let's move to my qualifying predictions. Obviously, looking at what we've seen in practice 1 and in practice 2, it's obvious that Lewis Hamilton has the pace, and I cannot deny it, that Lewis Hamilton will get on pole position. Again, Red Bull is still looking very strong. Not counting directly Max Verstappen out of it, but I think that it's going to be very close. Hamilton's going to get pole. Verstappen's going to qualify 2nd. Bottas will qualify 3rd. Gasly will qualify 4th ahead of Perez. And I think that Perez will be able to put it together. One good qualifying lap, get into Q3, get P5. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I don't think really he has the same pace as Verstappen. It's really shown so far this weekend. Again, I could be wrong. We could watch, practice 3 tomorrow morning and then qualifying from 12 to 1, and Perez just goes out and has a absolute amazing session. He gets pole position. I don't know. I'm just saying, based on the data that I've looked at, or that we've looked at as well, Hamilton is looking the strongest for pole position. Verstappen 2nd, Bottas 3rd, Gasly 4th, and Perez 5th is kind of my top 5 for quality predictions. I do think that the McLarens can make it into the top 10. I think that McLaren's could make it in the top 10. I could also see probably the Alpines of Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso has been on a massive charge, really. Past few races, he's been looking really strong, obviously, since getting that podium in Qatar, which was great to see as well. And I think that could be a rebound back for the Spanish driver. And I think that should be an exciting storyline for this weekend as well. Now, moving into our three-word preview for the race, or prediction. I would say Hamilton is going to tie Verstappen. As Hamilton ties Verstappen is the prediction, as I think that Hamilton will win the race. Verstappen's going to come 2nd. And then, obviously, Gasly will come 3rd. That's my bold prediction. Gasly's going to get a podium. I think he's going to look really strong. I think he can do it. Bottas 4th, and then Perez is going to finish 5th. So I think that he'll just maintain that position. I think that Red Bull's going to have Mercedes is going to extend their lead in the constructors battle going into Abu Dhabi, which is going to be very tough for Red Bull to, win the constructors battle. They're really going to need Perez to have a good weekend over this weekend and next weekend as well. But I just don't see it, based on what we've seen so far, for him really having a great weekend. So my 3-word race preview is Hamilton ties Verstappen 4 points as they go into Abu Dhabi for setting up, again, since 2016 or even previous years, a last lap championship battle where, it's a fight to the last lap. Whoever crosses the line first will win the race, pretty much. So, I mean, and if they go again in equal points, it's just whoever wins the race. It doesn't matter where you finish. Whoever finishes above the other person, they're winning, which is great to see, because ideally, then again, I'm not saying it could, that's what just makes the race win so much more. If you win last race and you're able to, and which I can see very much happening for Lewis Hamilton, because he's got the momentum, right? He won in Brazil, won in Qatar, he could win in Saudi Arabia, and then win in Abu Dhabi, and then just, win an 8th World Drivers' Championship with winning the last 4 races, and just going on a tear the last 4 races where Verstappen had a good chance and then just kind of lost it and bottled it. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's very likely that could have happened. And again, I'm still, hoping that Verstappen pulls through and wins as a Verstappen fan. But again, I wouldn't mind seeing Hamilton win because it would just be great to see winning an 8th World Drivers' Championship to beat Michael Schumacher and just to beat the record. Because again, Michael Schumacher said, records are meant to be broken. They're there to be broken for a reason. They're set for a certain level, and they're meant to be beaten, tied, broken, and stuff like that. So if Lewis Hamilton's able to do that, it'd be great to see. Obviously, it'd be great to see Max Verstappen become the youngest World Drivers' Championship, beating beating Sebastian Vettel by a couple months. Obviously, because when he won in 2010, he was the youngest at the current time. It was like 20. I don't know. He was like really young. I can't remember the exact date, but regardless, it should be a great race weekend. I'm super excited for what the circuit is. And again, just before we last little topic that we're going to talk about is just kind of my thoughts on the overall circuit so far of the Jeddah circuit, is that it seems to be a very fast circuit. And I do believe that ideally, I wouldn't say it's too dangerous because of how fast it is, but I think that we saw in practice 2 in FP2 where Charles Leclerc lost it, and again he's had some troubles over the years with these tight city circuits. We saw Baku, 2019, when he lost it in the Ferrari and put it right into the castle section. So again, in these tight situations, it's very close. You can't make a mistake. There's certain parts where you're going through, an S-type section through the chicane, and you're weaving and you're left, right, and you're going like 7th, 8th gear, like flat out. You were just, floor to the wall, just all gas, no brakes, and just going as fast as you can. And you hit too much curb. You collect too much of the stuff, and you're into the wall, or you're bouncing off one wall and you're into the other wall. And it can be very dangerous. And it's going to be very interesting to see during qualifying as well tomorrow how that's going to work out again with the straight circuit, because one of the interesting is the turn, I think turn 14 or 15, one of the last turns is that big banking, the big left banker where it's like a 12-degree banking similar to Indianapolis, where again, if someone's out there and they're going for their fastest lap, it's a very blind corner. So someone could be coming slow around the corner ahead of them and someone's whipping around trying to get, their fastest lap in, and they're unable to do that because of whatever reason. So it's going to be really interesting as well. And honestly, I do like it. It's just like it's a very narrow circuit, obviously being a street circuit. It's very fast. It looks great. Honestly, it looks to be, super fast racing. I feel that when they get down to the super straight, like when they get down to a certain section and they're going wheel to wheel, you're going to see them going wheel to wheel, side to side, for a large majority of the sections across the finish line. So we could see Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton fighting, at the last lap, going across the finish line side by side because of how fast it is, how close they are. I would love to see that. It would be a great race to see as well. But that's pretty much going to do it for our show today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the IntermissionSports.com for more content. Like I said earlier, we're probably going to be doing most likely a qualifying watch along, so you can watch along here at the Intermission YouTube channel. Just check out my Twitter at DonZSam for the link. I'll be sending it there, as well as the Outside the Cockpit Twitter at Outside the Cockpit. And that's pretty much going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys for watching, and enjoy your Friday.